from ControlTrends.com, your building automation controls podcast and videocast, where we talk about HVAC controls, building automation controls, smart building controls, and all the HVAC and smart building control news you can use. I am joined, as usual, by the man, the myth, the legend, the one, the only, Kenny Smyers from Dusseldorf, Germany. Kenny, welcome to the show.
Nice, Eric. I'm impressed by your mastery of this. Dusseldorf's a tough one. It trips people up, the saga continues overseas. Our international play. I still have 5 more days left on my travels here. I've had a great opportunity to spend. Went to a wedding. It was a fairy tale wedding in a castle, literally, and it was a relative. It was my wife's niece. It was spectacular. And then the thing about the Europeans is their efficiencies. Like, I'm in a hotel room here. Just to get the internet, I had to come over and borrow my daughter's hotel room. But it is like, it's so efficient. But I tell you, I get cramped. I can't. If I turn too quick, I'll hit my elbow on something. You know, it's. But they're masters of efficiency. I'm enjoying it. We've been doing a lot of traveling, and we're finally starting to slow down a little bit. I have access to internet as much as you'd expect internet to be pervasive throughout Europe. It isn't. It's another, unlike Japan and some of the other states where they give internet away, here you've got to pay for it or get to a spot that has the Wi-Fi. That's the only hotel.
Absolutely, hey, Kenny.
But a plug for McDonald's. I see a McDonald's, man. I'm overjoyed. Not necessarily for the food, but I got internet. They have got probably they're my heroes, because no matter France, Germany, wherever you see McDonald's, you can bet 99% rest assured they got internet. So bravo McDonald's.
Bravo McDonald's. Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of a little scene from Pulp Fiction. So Kenny, what do they call a quarter pounder with cheese in Germany?
Doggone it, they do call it something. Grand Monarch, I think.
Grand Monarch, okay. What do they call Big Mac?
I don't think they have a Big Mac.
No. John Travolta's line was, just a Big Mac. It's a Big Mac everywhere you go. So there you go.
But it isn't. They call it. He was right. They call it different stuff. And the Big Mac, at least it used to be. I had something at McDonald's that I fully did not expect. They have a whole different list of product offerings here. They offer the same stuff. So they do have the Big Mac, the quarter pounder. But they have like. It wasn't ribs. It was something German. It was a very German.
Like a wiener schnitzel, like a big wiener schnitzel,
something like that. Yeah, and they sell beer at McDonald's over here too. So
I know you love McDonald's over there now, for sure.
Well, they don't miss a trick. They get you there, and they get everybody in the family interested now. So dad can't say I don't want to go because I don't want a milkshake. And then they get great coffees over here too. That's basically what they get. There's a McCafes. Yeah. It's a section of McDonald's. It's kind of partitioned off for the serious coffee drinkers. So they're competing very well against the Starbucks and the other coffee providers.
I got some bad news for you and some good news. I know you've been over in Europe. You may or not have, our listeners who might know Kenny's from Pittsburgh. He's a big Pittsburgh Steelers fan. Big Ben let down. He's out 5 weeks, big dog. So the bad news is your field goal kicker missed like 5 kicks. The good news is, and for our listeners who might not know, Kenny was quite a prolific football player. As a matter of fact, when we were over in Europe, we'll talk a lot about our European trip, covering EZIO here in a bit. Kenny took me by Bitburg Air Force Base, where Kenny was a star football and baseball player for Bitburg in the military. Well, listen, I wanted to let you know the Roonies are looking for you. They want to see if you'll come in and kick for them.
I don't think I can kick anymore, but and I appreciate it. But we did have a really fun time over here in Europe. People probably don't know how extensive the leagues were in Europe. We had 3 leagues. We had the UK, we had the Mediterranean League, and we had the Continental Sports Conference. And I'll tell you what, we got to travel around, play football, and it was a lot of fun. And they're closing the bases down in England. That was an announcement, I think, 2 days ago, that Mildenhall, Lakenheath, and Upper Hayford, I think, are all closing down. Yeah. So the world keeps changing, but I'll tell you, there's a lot more activity going on in Europe, and the daily news is in a different set of information than you get in the States. The United States is not aware of some of the hot stuff happening here in Europe and around the world. So getting the news here in Germany. it's everything's changing again. It's getting serious.
Well, that's kind of a great segue, Kenny, because again, our apologies to our viewers and our podcast listeners. We haven't been able to do a show the last couple of weeks because Kenny and I were in EasyIO covering the EasyIO Global Conference. And Kenny, you just to sort of set the stage, it was a great segue. I mean, really and truly, I mean, we got to spend time with integrators from all around the world, and you're right. You don't always hear everything that's going on unless you go to a conference like this, right? Because every country's a little bit different. Every continent's a little bit different. It seems like one of the constants is the EasyIO controllers seem to be a constant. But, boy, talk a little bit about the lineup of people that we had there. Because we had some more Americans that showed up at the conference. I think EasyIO with this global conference, we're going to see more and more of that. Jerry Salucci came in from Canada with his wife, but had some pretty big names from the American market there, Kenny, huh?
Well, you sure did. You had, the partners. You had Contemporary Controls, who are network experts, and they have now a backnet controller that they're very excited about because it's a very, very it's an open controller. There's no software required. It's Sedona open source, so they were big hits over here. You had. We were represented from 5 different continents, actually 6. I was surprised we missed one because we all know there's 7 continents, and cannot forget Australia as a continent. So, but we had, the buildings are extremely different on the outside, the facades and some of the architecture, but inside it's the same thing, pushing air and water and providing comfort to, people. It's the same all over the world and doing it as efficiently as possible. And there's some really great ideas coming out of different parts of the world. And the Global EasyIO Partner event brought some of those together. We had, I'll tell you, the two big American players were J2 Innovation, Scott Mensch, they came up with an Easy Stack, which is, oh my gosh, we're going to have to talk a little bit more about that in the show because we have a post. And also John Petsy. John Petsy was on his way to Stockholm. And just to give you an idea how international everything is, he's got a whole group, a whole grassroots core of integrators over here that are doing the Sky Sparks, and so that's an international concept, and it's great to see those guys being so successful. And of course, EasyIO is we've met people that have 4,000 installations, and it's just they're a little bit further ahead of us on the power curve because they have their projects have the ultimate efficiencies, and they need the opportunities to use open stuff where they can't have renewal stuff. It's forbidden in the contracts. They have to have open stuff. Anybody that has the intelligence to go there, work on it, certified, needs to have access to it. So it's just a whole different perspective. But we got to see it all put together. There were some great demonstrations, and I'll tell you the big one. You can't say they're from the States because they're from Switzerland. It was Belimo. Yeah. And the stuff that they have up their sleeve is just incredible because, again, they have a whole new approach for VAVs. It's just made it smaller, more efficient, and their controllers now speak the MP bus and global. They have a protocol that now EasyIO has a gateway for the MP bus so that you can bring all those smart actuators and smart controllers into your network and basically it can replace some of the need for the controllers, at every floor or whatever. You can take it right. You can take these inputs right up into your network, and push them right out on the web, so that you can read your actuators now if you want to. But,
it's very, very impressive, and I think just in a nutshell, we'll go ahead and set it up. I think Mike's bringing the global conference to the U.S. next year, if I'm not mistaken. They haven't decided yet, but then after that, they're possibly talking about Rome. Kenny, I'm just going to go on record right now saying that this is, there are a lot of great conferences. October was conference month, as we'll talk about, because we covered several of them. But if you ever get a chance to go to the EasyIO conference, what better way to get a vacation, be able to write it off, get some great ideas, some great concepts, get inundated with how to use the EasyIO product. And man, all right, where did they take us? What was one of the night outings, which was just phenomenal?
Lido, it's a world famous, it's like in Las Vegas, it's a cabaret type thing. It's not a cabaret, they have a different name for it. Something like the the chorus line dancing, but they did a lot of chorus line dancing. It was just fabulous.
Man. Chorus line dancing, ice skating.
Talented musicians.
Yeah.
Ice skating brought up onto the stage, scared you to death because they were so close to you. The ice shavings were actually coming very close to hitting our table. And then there's incredible Olympians that the man and woman that were the strongest two little people I've ever seen. The woman supported the guy's handstand on her knee, a bent knee.
Yeah.
It was just incredible. Yeah, so I mean, talent-wise, so what EZIO does, and I think Mike Marston and Guido Van Arp and they know guys, they need a break, and they incorporate the best of both worlds, the business worlds. Of course, they expect business and business development. So that write-off is actually, once you get here, you really put the work from 8 o'clock, actually 7:30 to 4 o'clock. But after 4 o'clock buzzer, it's a great time. So the Lido was probably the most interesting thing, but the Eiffel Tower. And then why don't you tell us a little bit about that treasure hunt and how we did as a team?
Well, they actually had a treasure hunt might not be the right word. It was kind of like a great race type thing where you divided up into teams and you had to go to different locations. Like one of them would be there's a QR code by the Louvre underneath the particular thing. You had to go find it. So it was a great team building exercise. Had us all go around Paris. Our team leader was none other than the man, the myth, the legend, the one, the only Kenny Smyers. And I tell you what, you want to see Kenny just take it up another gear. Just put him in a competition, man. I tell you what, I thought you were going to kill some of those Europeans, man. But we didn't win. I think that honor went to our correspondent from India, Vimyak Sain, who I tell you what, does a great job. As a matter of fact, we've got a lot that we'll be posting over the next couple of weeks. We'll talk about some of the posts that we've already put up. But Vimyak basically interviewed the contingency from India. And Kenny, you talk about a country that is full of doing some incredible building upgrades. And how many millions of dollars are they spending over there? 400 million or 40? It's something outrageous.
Billion.
40 billion. Yeah.
400 billion is the total.
Smart city money set aside.
100 smart cities, yeah. And the incredible thing is they have a lot of the budget is already set aside. The companies like America, Germany, England, France, actually economic ambassadors over, and they are already staked $1 billion each so that they can get in there, make sure they get the translations right. But it's a great opportunity for the American manufacturers, and I don't know if everybody's aware of it, but India is going through a metamorphosis. They used to be kind of a colonial type thing where it was all coming from the Europeans, England. They had the British threads, the Germans, 240, 230 volts. Now, from what I understand, these Indian engineers, or India engineers, I guess is the proper word, they want the biggest bang for the buck. So they'll certainly take American NPT. They'll take American 24 volts AC or DC, and they'll take 120 volts. They want more collaboration. Their key takeaways are open and performance. So they're going to set up some standards, and if you're in that standards list, then I think it's going to make a great economic opportunity for a lot of American manufacturers. And I just wanted to revisit. I said that we won. What I meant to say was, even though we might not have taken the first place trophy, we won because of the experience we had with these people. And I've got some of the folks here. There was one. Our team captain was a fabulous woman out of Australia from Sydney. And I'm trying to get her card because she figured out how to do so many tricky little things. Like we had to make a replica of the Lido performance. We had to go to the Arc de Triomphe. We had to go to the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier from the First World War and get the 6th letter, 19th letter, 22nd letter, and come up with a word that spelled the word, and then went off to our next.
Had to kiss a stranger.
Yeah, we had to do a next assignment.
Had to go topless in public. You did that. Thanks, Kenny.
No, I didn't. Actually, my thing was I got the business card from a stranger, which was I got it from an Immobilian. You want to try something hard, go into a Paris office somewhere and ask them for a business card. Yeah. Twice he almost called the police, but I'm kidding.
Our main man Stuart from New Zealand was on our team, the largest systems integrator in New Zealand. What a great guy he was, huh? Yeah,
I tell you what, you talk about a smart guy, hard worker, and just knows the control business. Been around, went through the traditional channels and then kind of found his way through all the offerings to the, again, they put pressure on people to give them products that are really, especially how business. They go do a service call instead of travel 600 miles sometimes. So that remote communication and that reliability to access that remotely and do firmware upgrades and software upgrades is just incredibly important. So.
That is, but it was a great group. We had a couple guys from Ireland on our team too that were just awesome. So again, Kenny, it's just such a great experience to get to meet, and you really realize just how many incredible people there are around the world. And again, it gets back to one of Kenny and I's premises, which some of the best people in the world are in the building automation controls business, and they're everywhere all around the world. We might just have to have an international Control Trends Awards because I tell you what, it is such a great group, and I think a lot of them might be coming to the Control Trends Awards down in Orlando, Kenny. A lot of them said they were going to be making that trip to AHR, so I think the AHR show is going to be huge this year. Of course, we got the Control Trends Awards coming up that Sunday night, so you might have a chance to meet a lot of them. I know Tommy Hodgeness and his crew from Norway are coming, so good stuff, man. Good stuff. But again, getting back, Vimiak, just so you know what I have in the hopper is Vimiak Sane interviewed, I think it was 7 or 8 of the top controls people from India. So he kind of did a mini version of ControlTalk now. He actually interviewed you, the man, the myth, the legend. So
it was a lot of fun, yeah.
Kenny's actually going to be on the Indian Vimiak site as well as ours, getting interviewed by Vimiak Sane, our man in India. And special shout out to Bartesh, another one of the really great guys over there. So it's a great group of guys and girls. So you'll be hearing more from them. And Kenny, maybe you and I just ought to volunteer to be the ambassadors to India.
I wouldn't mind for a while, anyhow. Yeah. No, it was fascinating because, again, it was the best mixture where, you're talking with the people that are specifying architects and engineers. And we talked to, it was a couple that own a company over in India. They're both brilliant people and excited about their future. And they're really seriously saying you need to get involved in this emerging economic opportunity because they need more connections. They need more people to help them solve issues and problems and give them the best product selections that that they can get. But they do basically pharmaceuticals. They do the pharmas. They did the hospitals. And we're not talking 1 or 2. We're talking again the whole concept. And you go online and it's Smart Cities India. They talk about it. It's not just the big cities like Mumbai and some of the other ones. It's the smaller areas that are remote, but they have their own individual problems with the utility grid, the connection to the grid, the control, providing utilities to those remote areas. They need to build them up. So it was just an enlightening experience as much as it was a comparison. I like to see where we're at. I think we're ahead of the American markets, have certain controls that are ahead of the industry, and then certain products that are behind. And it's kind of neat to do that comparison. And how about the Enocean stuff? How that just keeps getting out of hand.
Oh, yeah.
With what's coming down the pike with Enocean, and how they now are. It's a common staple in all the hotels, that whole industry where you're servicing, large, 100 rooms, and you need to have windows. Like here in Europe, if you open your window, it shuts down your HVAC because they won't let you have the air conditioner on and open the window. And when everything's card driven, so you come in the door. If you don't put your card in the door, you have no electricity whatsoever.
Right.
Nothing works. So they discipline the users of these hospitality suites and hospitality rooms to play ball with a high level of efficiency. So it's coming.
It's good stuff. Well, Kenny, again, a great segue. I tell you what, I'd like to back up for a minute and sort of hit some of our posts from the last couple of weeks, and that's a great segue to one of the trends we're tracking, which is cybersecurity. We had a post about a week and a half ago called Hacker Skills: How to Get Free Movies in Your Hotel Rooms. And Kenny, that was a gentleman by the name of Pablos Holman. And he basically was just showing the vulnerabilities of wireless. But you want to watch this post because I figure you probably could get in there and hack into your room thing and probably get free internet, free movies, and disengage that whole thing so you can open your windows and keep your lights on at the same time. But that was good stuff, Kenny. He's basically breaking down the vulnerabilities of wireless and shows. And at one point in the video, he actually hacks into the head of security at Microsoft's cell phone. So some scary stuff. I know there are a lot of people that think, wireless has kind of been penetrable, and I'm not sure. Can't wait to get Fred Gordy back on the show Fred Gordy, our cybersecurity expert with SmartCore, to sort of see his thoughts on that.
Right. Well, Eric, part of my plight here in Europe was I didn't have internet connection. I mean, it's not as pervasive as I would have expected it. You know, a modern company like a country like Germany, you'd expect everybody to have Wi-Fi, every cafe, every restaurant, and they don't. In fact, a lot of families have taken strides against the pervasiveness of the internet. They don't use LinkedIn, they don't use Facebook, they don't let their kids use it either. They still have iPhones, they still know how to use the internet very efficiently, but they don't have, they're very concerned about their privacy.
Well, hang on a second. What is it about like Facebook and LinkedIn? I mean, what's the deal with them? Why are they railing against that so much?
For a couple of reasons. One is that they're much more sensitive to the violation, the invasiveness of the data breach. In other words, if they didn't specifically give their agreement that you can use the information, they believe it's theirs. And the children now here, every time it's a much different society. When you put your pictures on there, it gives you the actual, Mark Goodman's Future Crimes. They're much more hip. They're much more hip to that. In fact, their news goes into great details about it, so that they tell them if you take a picture and put it on Instagram or you put it on Facebook, that actually gives you GPS coordinates of where you live, where the picture was taken. So there's and for the people that really know what they're doing, I mean that's money in the bank for these people. So they take identities and they just credit card fraud is one thing, and hacking money out of your bank account's another. But these folks are doing things that are even more dastardly than just taking either to protect yourself is to have just a total abnegation of it. Put distance and shielding between yourself and people that are predators.
Do you think they're ahead of the curve with that, Kenny? You think we're going to see more of that in the States? I know you've been studying Future Crimes, a book by Mark Goodman. Do you think that's a trend that we're going to be seeing?
Yeah, like I say, it's getting into the point where it's like almost a political decision. You're either with it or against. You either feel as though you're totally compromised anyhow, and you have nothing to lose, and so what's the use? I mean, look at us. We can't exist. You and I we rely on this Skype, and we rely on everything. But Skype is allowed to take that information, everything we produce, theoretically, everything you put on on Facebook, everything you put on Google. Plus or whatever belongs to them. The ownership of the data is whoever owns the data owns the properties. And we've talked about some of the great capers that have occurred where an artist made a beautiful sunset picture and he goes to sell it and he says, "Why should I buy from you? I can get download that from Google for nothing." Yeah. So issues like that here are taken much more seriously, I think, than States. I think we have more of a Teflonic type of nature. We don't get as upset and hold a grudge as long as other people do.
Well, and I tell you what, I wonder too, Kenny. Kenny and I have talked a lot in the past about a book called Pendulum, which is basically how things switch from, in very simplistic terms, from a me sort of society where everything's about me to an us society, which is everything's about us. And I think we've been in the midst of a huge us where everybody shares. They're sharing the Google, they're sharing the Facebook, the Instagram, and so on and so forth. And these things shift. I think it came about every 21 years or so. But they're signs, harbingers, if you will, that sort of outliers that sort of indicate that you're getting ready to shift to the next phase. And why is this important? Well, what's critical about it is it affects everything from your marketing, how you do your successful marketing is probably the most important thing in our industry. How you go to market is huge with that. Because if you're marketing as a me instead of an us, and we're in an us cycle, you're just missing everybody. But Kenny, do you think this might be a harbinger of us getting ready to shift back to more of a me type cycle?
We're 15 years out, so we just began the us cycle. We're up on the upswing. So I think we go to 2020, and then it starts back down. So we'd have 20 more years. So complete cycle is actually 80 years. So you go from we're in the rise of a we cycle. And 2020 will be, it'll max out and it'll come back down to the next 20 years. So that 2040 will be the beginning of the I. And you're right. I tell you, the advertising over here too. They really, it's all us. It's all about us going together. It's all about families. It's about traveling together. It's about meeting friends. So I mean, the same concept is very much evident here in marketing. Yeah,
and I tell you what, Kenny, we got a lot to go. But if any of our listeners out there are interested in how that could affect your marketing, being in an us cycle, you can reach out to Kenny and me at ControlTrends@gmail.com, all one word, and we can have a conversation with you about that. But Kenny, I tell you what, shifting gears again, let's get back to a good German company Siemens. We had a post up about Siemens. They got a new fan coil stat out. And Siemens has really been making some moves with their thermostats and the products they're bringing through distribution. Speak a bit about that, if you would, what you're seeing from Siemens.
Well, I think that, at one time we didn't have access to the Siemens, some of the best products they had because it came through, their proprietary channel, the branch. Now we're seeing that the RAA and RAB sensors, the fan coil thermostats, are obsoleted and are replaced by the RDG. And this is a very pretty thermostat. It's got the European white coloring. It's got the ergonomics. It's got everything right there in a nice, small, compact presentation. So you can see this is it's ideally suited for light commercial installations such as the retail, hospitality, healthcare, small commercial buildings, and they're easy to install and commission. And then you also have the scheduling, auxiliary outputs, inputs, advanced room control strategies. It's kind of a neat little, it's a neat stat. It's a neat controller. I think like some of the other people like Viconics, they don't call them thermostats as much as they used to because they're actually room controllers or zone controllers. So good stuff.
Yeah, good stuff for sure. Congratulations to Siemens on that. Be sure to check out the Siemens RDY 2000 thermostat promotion. It basically comes through CGNA distributors. You can find out at your CGNA distributor, cgnacontrols.net. Click on your local distributor. Special offer we posted on Control Trends. Essentially this, Kenny, you buy an RDY 2000 thermostat from a CGNA distributor. They'll give you a $25 gift card right there on the spot for every stat you buy up to, I think, 10. They also have a kit that you can get, which includes sensors that you can actually get a $50 gift card on, which is really cool. And then on top of that, that's not enough. When you install your thermostat or your Siemens RDY system, take a video out, shoot a video of the installation, your customer's reaction, submit that to Control Trends, and Siemens will be judging those. And the winner of that video actually gets a $750 travel voucher anywhere they want to go. And Kenny and I are throwing in 2 tickets to the 2015 Control Trends Awards on top of that. So if you haven't seen that yet, that is just a phenomenal stat, Kenny. And, we don't have time today to go into it, but we've got several posts up on Control Trends. Just in the search bar, hit Siemens or Siemens RDY 2000. You can totally check that out. And Kenny, with that, it brings us to our first post in Europe.
Well, it was actually the Global EZIO Partner event. We had the Renaissance Begins. That was our theme. We did that in front of the Louvre, the pyramid. That was to give us the theme for the EZIO conference, and that was that Mike Marston always gave us that pyramid. And if you ever saw Mike, he's a very robust, very exciting talker, and he really believes in his product. But he believes that the market is very, very narrow and thin at the top, and it's like a pyramid. You got to penetrate that, go down deep and wide into the market, where the light commercial building spaces are, where the 90 depends who you talk to, 80%, 70%, 90% of the buildings that need the controls that we sell are actually in that market area, and according to some of the presentations we saw a person say that about 70% of those buildings are not serviced yet. They do not have the controls they need to be efficient, to become part of the smart grid, to become part of automated demand response, and that's where our systems integrators and our contractors need to be focused. That market is just ready for basically.
Yeah, it's the race to the small space.
We all try to keep track of it.
Right, it's the race to the small space, as we said, Kenny, and I apologize to our listeners. We're a little in and out of sync. Kenny's in Germany, so our Skype connection kind of comes and goes a little bit. So thank you for bearing with us on that. But Kenny, that is definitely the race to the small space, and that's just not EZIO and their people saying that. I mean, Honeywell's talking the same thing. So is KMC. Controls, which we'll talk about later, but I think the thing with Renaissance, Kenny, is really and truly something we ought to tease out a little bit here, because if you think about what the Renaissance was in its most simplistic terms, and yes, Kenny and I realize that the Renaissance did not start in Paris, France. It started in Florence with the Medici family, but a lot of it did happen in Paris. But if you think about what the Renaissance really was, it was, in its most simplistic terms, but also terms I think apply to our industry, when people begin to question the way things had always been done and started to do things differently. And I think if you've been following control trends for a while, you've seen that this has been going on in multiple facets, from companies like J2 and DG Logic, Sky Foundry, to EasyIO. The big manufacturers are also involved in it too, but I think we are really in a renaissance, a time where things are getting shaken up, shifted around, and Kenny and I think that maybe 5 years from now we'll look and we'll see that maybe this conference we were at was the tipping point, right? We had some of the greatest minds on the planet that were at this conference. A lot of the great minds weren't there, but a lot of them were. And with some of the stuff we saw and heard, and hopefully some of the stuff that we can share with you over the next couple of weeks regarding this conference, as well as the KMC conference, the Honeywell Momentum conference, and the LinkSpring partners meeting that's coming up, I think you're going to see the theme is that things are shifting in a very positive way. And part of that shift is a lot more choices. People are going about things a little bit differently, and it's an exciting time to be in the industry, right, Kenny?
It sure is, and we have several posts here that follow that theme, of course, because that was a very good thing. It came up with Renaissance, and then we went into Paris being the cradle of Western civilization. But another aspect of it is philosophies are changing. For instance, collaboration now is first and foremost. These folks that were at this meeting now think that the 3 years to come to market with products and everything cannot deal with the incredible rate of change. The Smyers law, and as long as you keep putting more and more on less and less, you're going to have to be faster on the draw to get products to meet the demands. Yes. So not only is it it's this mentality of collaboration and givers get, and like we always say that it's co-opetition. In other words, to fight over the same market is now passé, because you can't you're not going to mercantilism where you increase your size of the pie to take somebody else's. That was the philosophies we were using for many years, and now we're seeing it's not the case at all. You need to go away from your focus point into new market areas, because that's where you're finding new opportunities, and that's the core concept behind Niagara 4. Innovation. Put talented, give talented people the tools they need to expand their markets and address. One of the craziest things about EasyIO's presentations was that the controller's doing things it was never intended to do.
Yes.
So somebody with a great idea, some young person that really knew his stuff with HTML5. They're saying, really? You can do that? We didn't design a controller to do that, but if it can do that, great. Let's share that information. So that's that kind of collaboration that's happening, and that ecosystem that's building around the new software and hardware tools.
No, it's really cool, Kenny. And like I said, you and I have been through enough business cycles to know, and I think one of the principles that has not changed is the fact that you have to have a differentiator, right? And it used to be when we first came in, the differentiator was quality. I mean, was maybe great customer service, right? Now, if you don't have great customer service, you're not even part of the conversation. You had to have a great product. If you don't have a great product, you're not even part of the conversation. Information could be a differentiator, but I think the differentiator we're seeing now is speed. And, the term, I think Ken Sinclair, AutomatedBuildings.com might have coined this term, or you did, one of the two, but, co-competition, right? I mean, you just have to, because if speed is a differentiator, you have to partner with people, even sometimes your competitors, to get the latest and greatest technology out and make it work. And speaking of that, Ken Sinclair's AutomatedBuildings.com, his October issue is out, so be sure to check that out. Ken is somebody that Kenny Smyers and I have a lot of respect for and following. Ken Sinclair stays on top of these trends and is a great source. But sort of agree, Kenny, agree or disagree. I mean, speed seems like it's a differentiator now. And how do you get faster? I mean, one way is obviously, cooperation or co-competition.
Competition, or in collaboration, because what happens is in the people, like the ones that we're feeling the heat from are systems integrators. Why can't we do that? Why can't we do this? Why isn't this thing ready? Why these guys got it? Why don't you have it? So what they're doing is they're the leaders on applying technology, because that technology now is being viewed as a puzzle piece. That's the puzzle piece that's missing, is this new controller that's coming out of this application. So you're seeing that the apps now are so important. And running an application using somebody else's software and hardware is an opportunity now that they're people are really doing it. So they're coming up with these new applications to do not only just graphics and visual displays, but also tracking anomalies in the building. So when you have anything going on there, you write some rules up there, and kind of what Sky Foundry did and led the way. We're seeing more people are coming up with those applications. We're seeing the gentleman Chris Schneider out of Australia. I mean, he's very bright, and he said, you don't have to do it that way. Let's try to do it this way, because he knows how computer code's written, and he can write something that's a little shorter, faster, and less expensive. And next thing you know, he's got an enterprise tool that links, several remote areas into one and aggregates information and gives you a digital dashboard or display that's incredible. But, again, that's what I'm saying. So he created his own market. All these guys were visionaries in their own way to create a form of business that wasn't there before. And the EasyIO, and now we might as well go right transition to the next post, which is the Easy Stack. Here's what happens when you get 3 or 4 companies together that really believe in integrating their efforts to create new opportunities. You have the Easy Stack, and this is now the next generation of building automation framework. And it's ready for sale, and basically it's J2 Innovations teaming up with EasyIO's bright minds to come up with a way to do something that needs to be done, but do it differently and perhaps make it easier using things that were leading edge stuff like tagging, and then it's just a very important development that other people around the world think is very important. So the Easy Stack now is coming out, and EasyIO in conjunction with Bolino came out with the MP gateways, so that now you just have more, so you're not moving backwards, you're moving forwards, and it's happening at just a lightning speed. Now, you don't like, some people might be early adopters, some people might not, but this stuff is working because we got to hear it from around the world.
No, absolutely.
A lot of these things aren't even existing in the United States yet, but they've already been commonplace in Europe.
Agreed. And listen, real quick, I want to cycle back around to our friend Chris Snyder from OpenBMCS.com. Definitely, Kenny, we'll put a link in the post so you can check him out. But Chris is a young guy. He was a young gun. His father was a very successful systems integrator and still is down under. Chris works for him, but again, being sort of a Renaissance man, he didn't like the software, the programming software and things like that were available, so he made his own. And Chris is one of our international sponsors for the Control Trends Awards, Kenny, so thanks to Chris for that. I think EasyIO and Chris are too, right? Yeah.
Yeah, we have to thank J2 Innovations who came on as a platform sponsor.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, thank you, Scott mentioned Jason Briggs and those guys. And special thanks to all our sponsors. We will spend more time talking about our sponsors, because without our sponsors, the Control Trends Awards can't happen, and they need to happen. It's an important way to honor the greats in our industry.
Right, Eric. And speaking of the greats, I just want to kind of summarize one of the posts that we kind of merged into two, and that was like Mike Marston. He can take credit for a lot of the sprichwörter, a lot of those phrases that we're using to describe things. Renaissance and deep and wide in the market. It was Mike's passionate presentation from a couple years ago, and now we're seeing it even bigger. But we talk about greats. We talk about people who really and truly changed the industry. We talk about people that belong in the Control Trends Hall of Fame, and we get the chance to interview and spend time with Terry Casey, who literally is a shining example of somebody who's put 40 years in the industry and changed it. He started Trend, the control company. It's still, I think, has
like number 1 in Europe or something like that. Yeah.
Right, in England for sure, in the Middle East. He also was the CEO and president of Tritium Europe, and now he's with an IntelliStar. And you talk about a guy that I could listen to him all day because he's like a professor. In other words, he wants to make sure you get it. If he looks at somebody in the crowd and they don't get it, he'll say, "What? You don't understand what I'm saying here?" But he does it in such a unique way, an English style, that you really come away feeling as though you've learned something about the industry and something about yourself, because you know now where you need to go. But he also said about this collaboration and about this tremendous synergy that's happening and the infrastack that they have, where you're taking some of the great efforts being done by this company and this company and this company, you stack that together and you have one of the most potent and presentable and usable solutions available. I think they're going in particularly into the utilities, and they use cellular as their communications. So that was another kind of unique, presentations where cellular has earned its keep in Europe, and now it's making its way to North American market. It's always been there, but it wasn't affordable. A lot of the stuff was very expensive and very term oriented, and you had to sign up for 4 years, 2 years, 3 years, and it was cumbersome. But so Terry reviewed how they do it and the benefits of it, and it was a very convincing, compelling presentation.
Now, you did a fantastic job with that interview with Terry Casey, and I tell you, there were a lot of great presentations at the EZAL conference, but Terry Casey, in addition to being an enormously bright man, is a fantastic presenter. Like you said, you're on the edge of your seat just the way he presents the information. And the other guy, completely different style that blew me away. I thought I was looking at Steve Jobs on stage, was Scott Metz from J2 Innovation. He is such a great presenter, Kenny. Who knew? And so, I had a chance to interview him. We're jumping a little bit out of sequence, but I had the chance to interview him talking about the Easy Stack and sort of J2's thought on, are we at the beginning of a renaissance of controls? And so great interview with Scott Metz. Definitely check that out. And then I guess sort of getting back to the sequence, I think Fred Gordy had a post, didn't he? Where,
let me just, you had mentioned something earlier I think was very important, and you said that we're going to look back at this in 5 years and say, could this meeting have actually been something that will be
like a tipping point, right? Yeah.
It's a tipping point. And Terry Casey said absolutely.
Yeah.
In fact, he in the interview said that he's been in the control industry a long, long time, started trend, and he said, we really haven't changed much in 25 years, but now we have. Yeah. Now we're changing. So again, the Renaissance concept, we asked him if we thought that was applicable. He said yes. He said truly, because we're now going into the Internet of Things, which it's where you're really taking the cream of the crop technologies, putting them in usable stacks, and coming away with synergies that weren't possible. They weren't affordable, they weren't practical, and now they're suddenly becoming more and more pervasive. So, and that IoT, Internet technology, right? Internet of Things for buildings, it can be a great segue, because Fred Gordy's post is where we were IoT before IoT was cool, and that's an interesting post. What do you think Fred's sharing with us on that one? What do we want to make sure? I know the post because it's about, a lot of our stuff got started when security wasn't an issue. It was behind the curtains. People didn't know or care how HVAC lighting and all that stuff, was controlled, and now we realize it's vulnerable. So,
well, I think Fred Gordy to me is a little bit like Paul Revere, right? And I think this post is indicative of that. I think it's the technology is so great. It does so many great things, and nobody really, especially guys like me, don't want to think about the fact that the hackers are coming, right? I mean, I'm one of these guys that probably falls in the category thinking it's never going to happen to me. And I think that Fred serves, Kenny, such a vital role in our industry because, again, we got all this great stuff going on, but he's absolutely right. It's, it's not like, as much as we're putting into research and developing new products. I mean, the hackers and the black hats are putting as much, if not more. I mean, you talk about, I think it might be in Future Crimes, where you told me some of these guys, these organizations that are hacking have bigger research and development budgets than Fortune 100 companies. So it is a race, and you have to be aware. And again, I think what Fred does in this post, like most of his posts and most of his messaging, is about, hey, look, you got to pay attention. All this is great, but you have to protect yourself, because for every new advancement we have, we are typically opening up a couple of new ways that people can come in and do future crimes, right?
Sure. Well, he just reviews, jumping forward to present time, and actually he cites, I think 2009, where you had the Nest thermostat and the Siri and the Apple TV, and all this stuff becomes automated through the home automation. And what does this mean? We expect that to be just more comfortable, easier to use, and connecting this And then we talk about Teresa Sullivan and the contextualization. How the big guys are fighting for it at home. iOS, Samsung, Apple. Everybody wants to have the software that controls your entire house, integrates everything from your lights, your garage doors, alarm clocks, refrigerators, freezers, everything. Well, Fred said, that this still, it's great, but guess what? If you can do it, and you can use your wireless networks to do it, and you haven't taken measures to reduce your vulnerability or prevent easy access into your networks, you just really compromised everything from your house to your business. Because he said, now that the motion detection system, you say, hey, Siri, work time. Siri turns your house on, makes your coffee pot come on, does this, start your car, does your snow melt system, has everything connected to it, and already sends the information of your car movement to your office, and the office now is going to do your setup, your warm-up, or your occupied set point. He says, if you can see it on your phone, who else can see it? Who else can see when you're coming, when you're going, what you're doing, and then prey on that. So he really, like you said, he is Paul Revere in the sense that the problem is not going to go away. The problem's coming, or it's here. And what have you done to prepare yourself for it? No,
exactly. And sort of getting back to it, Kenny, Mark Pt.1 and Fred Gordy are I love these guys. They're taking the problem on head on. As you know, we mentioned this before with more details coming, but there'll be a cybersecurity conference just for building automation controls in Atlanta that Fred put together with Georgia Tech. So we're helping promote that, but that's going to be phenomenal. So again, hats off to Fred Gordy, SmartCore. Miss you, Fred. Looking forward to catching up with you. Kenny and I both been out of pocket, so we'll catch up with Fred. And hey, listen. Got to tell you something else too, Kenny. I was in the Apple store yesterday, and what thermostats do you think were on the shelves at the Apple store? I'll give you a hint. They weren't Nest.
Honeywell.
Ecobee. Ecobee thermostats were right there, front and center. So there you go.
At the Apple store.
At the Apple store. Couldn't believe it.
So who bought Nest?
Google bought Nest.
And who's going to buy Ecobee?
Oh, I don't know. But speaking of that, I bet our girl Teresa Sullivan, I don't know if you've heard from Teresa lately or not, but Teresa knows one of the great minds in our industry. She has a blog called buildingcontext.me. Be sure to check her out. But have you heard from her lately, Kenny? Teresa?
Yeah, she had 2 posts last week.
We should see if we get her back on the show. She was a great guest. Remember, we had her on a while back. She's awesome. Let's catch back up with her. Teresa, if you're listening, reach out to me and Kenny. We want to get you back on the show.
Yeah. Okay, she had 2 posts came out last week, and I had no chance to read them because
Well, I know you didn't have internet, and I know one of the things that Kenny's been doing that some of our viewers have asked about. Kenny has done a great job with the calendar, keeping up with the event calendar. But Kenny just hadn't had internet. Man, he's been in the castle drinking beer and getting relatives married and stuff like that. So, but he'll be getting back on that. But Kenny, that does bring us sort of a good segue. Because the next big event coming up is DG Logic, another one of those Renaissance types companies, the Men in Black, Eugene Mazzo and Arthur and the crew. Got a training going on in Cochrane, a training going on at Cochrane Supply up in Michigan, Detroit, October 7th through the 9th. So if you're not signed up for that, you might be a little bit late on that, but they probably have more spaces. So there's a link that is in the post. So check that out. But again, DG is always a platinum sponsor for the Control Trends Awards, so we really appreciate those guys. Thanks, Eugene and Arthur and Julian and the rest of the crew there. So I think we kind of went through the J2 Innovations post, Kenny, and then that sort of brings us back to EasyIO's role in the smart buildings controls renaissance. And that was you interviewing our friend, Johan Shakarov. So,
Johan Shakarov, and what's the irony is I'm in Dusseldorf, right? And his office is about 50 minutes away north in Holland. I was going to try to squeeze that in just to go see it and check out how they do it in Holland, but it just didn't work out time-wise. And you're right, he's another really, really bright guy. He had...
and he's president of EasyIO Europe, right? So Mike and the CEO of EasyIO Europe. So he takes care of Europe, and Mike and Lim and the rest of them take care of Asia and the States and Australia, right?
Right. Okay. Well, he was very excited. It's a great interview. In other words, his and you were talking about Scott Mensch. I think why he's so good at presenting stuff and talking about his product is he's so dang happy and proud of it. You talk about, what do they call it, work lifestyle, where you actually do the job that you want to do and you love it so much that you can't believe you're getting paid for it, like a baseball player.
Right.
Well, I don't know if anyone's just like that. This guy, I swear, once he gets going, he just tells you what success they've had and how this led to that. And this guy met this person, and they were all, the old stalwarts of the control business. He worked for, I think, Distech, and he worked for a couple other companies. So he really learned the business, and then he really was able to go and then decide intelligently what the next move was. But he also says about the tipping point and the control renaissance, because the growth of EZIO throughout Europe all the way to Russia now it's just been they're hiring people right and left, and so it's really grown. But because he is really a sharp guy himself, and he's an integrator himself, and they try things out. They make sure that the Hay thing works, the Niagara 4, out there, they'll Tritium people, HTML5, building analytics, they all need it, and they all know how things work so well with the PLCs. In other words, his industry too, we're seeing these guys had a lot of applications where they were working with utility companies, and they're monitoring 1,000 houses, and they're the one gentleman from Sweden, I believe, or Norway. It was Norway. I think they had 120 utility buildings, and how critical they need to be able to eliminate problems before they happen. They have to anticipate issues, things sleeping and causing resets and restarts and stuff. So to listen to these guys, and Johan, I tell you, he can go toe to toe with them. He knows the business well, and he's just doing a really good job developing the business in Western Europe and now Eastern Europe. So I think the entire Asian continent. No, it's Europe. Asia belongs to another group of Asia. Johan is the man in the European theater, and he's doing a great job, and he really loves his product. So I recommend him to go to that interview and just to hear this guy say it for himself about what he thinks is going to happen in our industry and the role that EZIO will play in it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Kenny, like we said, we mentioned earlier that October is conference month. Our Rob Allen and Mike Bonner were out at Honeywell Momentum covering that conference for us. So our next post is Rob interviewing Larry Weber, who is in charge of the Building Automation Controls brand general manager. Very, very bright guy, Kenny. And I tell you what, it was a lot going on at the Honeywell Momentum Conference. According to Rob, we'll have a lot more on this. Like I say, next week you'll hear more see more videos and hear more. We'll hopefully get Rob on the show. But the gist of it, they spent a lot of time with Niagara 4. Apparently, Honeywell is the first major manufacturer to release Niagara 4. We've had some good experience with it, as we've mentioned on the show before. And the big thing Larry was talking about was this race to the small space. And, there are a lot of us, Kenny, you and I have been around for a while. I know your brothers have too. Honeywell kind of defined that space back in the day, probably 10, 15 years ago. They really came out with some of the first products to address the small space with their T7350 thermostats, their light commercial system, their LCBS system. Did a fantastic job with that. And Larry is very excited and has talked to us a bit about how Honeywell has reinvigorated that product. They're coming back out with it. I think first quarter next year, it'll be hitting the street. So excited about that. And I think a big market that Larry sees for that is they're going to that market sort of indirectly. And what Larry is seeing is that you got so many service contractors that their bread and butter is service. And it's very difficult to get a service contract. It's very expensive if you lose one. It's getting more and more competitive. So I think one of the things the Honeywell tool is going to provide for these guys is the ability to be more competitive, offer their service agreement customers more bang for the buck, do it in a more cost-effective method. And I think Larry's really got an understanding of this. So I think the good news is I think a lot of people, because most of these service contractors a lot of them are very risk averse. You think about this, if you're making good money doing service work, you go put a system in and it screws things up, then you could lose your service agreement over that, right? So there's a cost to associating it with it. But I think we're in a time now where even customers in the small space are going to want the ability to have things monitored remotely, controlled better. And I think the service contractors that are not going to get on board with a product like this are going to lose out. So I think Honeywell's got the right product and the right message. So it's going to be real exciting to see how this evolves. And it should be a lot more business for controls distributors like me and you, because those service contractors typically now are not buying automation systems. So I think Honeywell sees those guys as sort of leading the race back into the small space.
Plus, I think what Honeywell realizes too is that if they can help make this easier, I think to Honeywell's credit, they've always had an interest in business. Johnson Controls, they had their business conference. They actually put themselves in the shoes of a distributor or an integrator, and they said, okay, what can we do to tell these guys more about how how to approach markets, how to sell things, of course, how to sell our products. So it's a mutual benefit. Well, Honeywell now too is saying that we might not have the economy of scales to offer a product that they can be hosted in the clouds, and they can because they've got deep pockets and they've got the technology. So what they're doing is they're making that gap, the distance between putting things into the web and having them stand alone, easier and smaller. I think to testament to Echobee's success was they hosted a website for the contractor. They gave that contractor that personality with their customers. It made it look like they had a big overhead, had a big staff, had their own web page, web browser, but actually it was basically hosted by a manufacturer, a large manufacturer who had the technology, can secure it properly, support it properly, and then give these guys a tool that they couldn't ordinarily get. They couldn't afford to do it themselves. They couldn't do all those intermediate steps. They might not be very good at web pages. They might not be very good at networking. But if you have that customer's attention and they want those services, Honeywell has just made it that much easier to provide those services to a customer at a probably very Honeywell, they get that economy of scale, so it's probably going to be a very reasonably priced rollout.
Well said, Kenny. Well said. And I tell you, I don't know about you, but I really like Larry Weber. I think he's a super bright guy, and he's a guy that's driven by analytics and data. And I tell you what, when he talks to you about what he's seeing, it's all based in data. So wish them a lot of luck with that product. As a Honeywell distributor, I have selfish motivations in hoping that product does really well, but we're excited about it. And speaking of that, Kenny, it sort of leads us to our last post. We made Rob Allen go from, and by the way, Rob said the Honeywell Momentum Conference was off the chain. Had Joe Theismann out there. Rob was talking about he's out playing golf with the Honeywell folks, and Joe Theismann walks up and asks if he can hit some golf balls with him, and did, and said he was a super guy. He was one of the speakers there. But again, when it comes to being a great host and creating a great event, I tell you, Honeywell, I think, is right at the top of that list too. So really sorry we couldn't be there. Hopefully next year the scheduling will be such that we can be there. But Rob had a great time, and Rob actually got to speak out there too, so he enjoyed that as well. But speaking of that, we sent them right from the Honeywell conference to KMC Controls. They're having their conference in San Antonio, Texas, and again we got several updates coming. This week we posted a day one recap with Rob and Mike Bonner. And again, KMC has their product that they're bringing into the small space, the race to the small space. Everybody's gearing up for that. They've got a really interesting stack, if you will, that includes both KMC, Dell, and Intel. So they've got the cybersecurity built into the chip and some stuff like that. So any thoughts on that, Kenny? Have you had a chance to sort of research that at all? Or?
Absolutely, Eric. KMC, to me, again, we really do believe in our Control Trends Awards and our Control Trends Museum and the great people. And KMC, of course, has one of the greatest American success stories to date that I've come across, and we're going to see more on that later. But the thing that KMC does now, too, is I think, again, to talk about our collaboration and synergy and the success of J2 Innovations, is J2 has been adopted by Siemens and KMC. So it just goes to show you that J2 is now internal to these big OEMs, people with global distribution channels, global partners. But what KMC to me does is, number one, they're an American company. Number two, they're like, they have an A to Z product portfolio. They do the hardware solutions, software solutions, wireless solutions. And then in controls, they got the 5-year warranty on anything they make. So they're up there with Belimo. They're so proud and certain that their products have been tried and tested. So if you buy anything from an enclosure, valve, actuator, sensor, relay, transducer, thermostats, and controllers, you've got yourself, a grade A product. And that's why I think their success is written in the quality of their products and the reliability that other vendors, relabel their stuff and use KMC products as their own because they believe in the quality. But now we're seeing, under the leadership of Eric Kruder, we're seeing them really and truly go to the next level. He plots strategically where KMC is not going to be this year, next year, 5 years from now. But he's making sure that KMC is not left behind in those, I think it was John Soblett that said that the caution everybody out there at the summit was that if you don't move now and you don't stay used to, running with change, you're going to be left behind. You're going to become an island of technology and you're not going to be able to go to the next level because you didn't take those intermediate steps. You didn't upgrade your stuff, and whether you like it or not, Microsoft doesn't ask for your permission to go to Microsoft Windows 10. It's just going to happen. And same with HTML5 is going to be HTML6. I mean, it never stops. And so when a company or manufacturing lets too much time occur before their next revisions and their next upgrades, they could not only can they fall back behind and really and truly have difficulty catching up, but so does the entire customer base. Yeah. So do all those people that want to take advantage of the latest and greatest. You can't do it because your stuff isn't consistent with the other technologies out there that are driving this change, and it's not going to stop. And so that's why I get when I heard Eric Kruder talk, and as young as he is, I mean, he was a young gun too last year, but this kid is really sharp, bright, concerned, and he's not afraid to take the leadership role and invest in the next technologies to make sure KMC is part of the future.
Right, right. Well said, Kenny. Yeah, Eric Kruder is the grandson of the founder of Kruder. So again, you and I both kind of relate. Family business, and great guy Eric Kruder is. So I know Rob's and Mike said they're getting a lot of that meeting out there. So Kenny Smyers, with that, I tell you what, we're running right about an hour or so. So I think we better begin to wrap it up. A lot more coming next week from all three conferences. We got a lot of video collateral that we'll be posting. We'll also have Varun Najara, the CEO of Sierra Monitor. We've got his next episode of Control Network Talk with Varun Najara, which the first one of those was huge. Varun is a gifted teacher that makes the complex simple, and he will be answering your network control questions, and so we're looking forward to that. And, Kenny and I are both, we apologize. The nomination ballots will be coming out next week. We've just, with all the travel and sort of technology challenges, we haven't had a chance to finalize that yet, but we're working on it. So look for the ballots to come out sometime next week. And we have our correspondents from Mexico. Kenny will be coming on next week as well. So we'll look forward to that. But it'll be great to get back. I know as much as I love to travel, it's always good to get home, back to home base where you can sort of, you know where your computer is, your internet connection, all that other good stuff. So,
I agree. I can't wait. I'm tired. We have a lot going on here, and I've done a lot of traveling, and enjoyed it. But as much as I enjoy it, I miss having the regular access and getting things done. I don't like loose ends all around, and but I appreciate everybody's patience too, because we made a lot of commitments that are just being. They're going to get done as soon as that's permissible. But I think, in all fairness, on the categories, you and I, we get to talk about things. And again, the Control Trends Awards is always about getting better, taking some of the suggestions we had. And some of the people in the EZIO represented our global. I mean, let's face it, we had a chance to collaborate with the people from India, telling us all about the stuff they're doing, what the products they're interested in. We had a chance to talk to all of England, France, Germany, Norway, Holland, Sweden, all the way out to, I didn't get a chance to talk to them, but there were people here from, countries I don't even know the names of, and then also in Australia and New Zealand to hear their comments, about products and about reliability, durability. It changed our whole context of just being an American, view of products. There's global products now that are that's why they call them global. I mean, you really truly have to think local. Think global, act local. I can't get that right. I said it 10 times and get it wrong every time, but it's think global, act local. they're the ones that are really truly they're taking the lion's share of the market area because they're able to do that, and we need to have that prowess, that smartness, and apply to our own areas because nothing's standing still.
Well, I tell you what, we do, and again, a special thanks to the team at EasyIO for a great conference. Kenny and I just had a big time in Paris. We got there a day early. We walked 14 miles one day. For those of you who might not know, I'm really into photography in Paris. I mean, there's so many great things to beautiful things to photograph, the least of not, which is the women. And Kenny and I sort of had a routine, which is when I'd see a pretty girl I want to take a picture of, I'd have Kenny sort of stand in front of her, I'd frame it up, and I'd move him out at the last second to snap the picture. So if you're really good, I might show you some of my pictures. Maybe I'll post some of those of some of the beautiful women of Paris. And we just had one instance where we kind of got jumped. A homeless person saw us doing that, and man, he was cussing us out in French, wasn't he?
Yeah,
cussing me out in French.
Well, it was a couple of times. When you have a camera, people think, worst case scenario, but you're right. A lot of the sites there are just, it's just
the buildings, the light, the people, and like I said, we've been there twice. It's just, the people are just awesome. And I got to tell you, Kenny, I wanted to show you because we went back to Le Dome, which is where Hemingway and some of the writers and artists hung out with, and several of those other places that have been around forever. Took some pictures there because Kenny and I are both big into that. And I got to tell you, buddy, I found one of my books on Picasso, and I opened it up, and there are pictures of him at Le Dome and some of these places. So it's such great history there. But hey, Kenny, I could go on talking forever about that, but hey, man, I know you got stuff to do. You got to get back to Germany. So with that, we're going to wrap up another week of Control Talk Now, your smart buildings video and podcast for the week ending October 4th, 2015. I'm Eric Stromquist. He's the man, the myth, the legend, the one, the only Kenny Smyers. Have a great week, and remember, stay in control.
Indeed, Eric.
Indeed, Kenny Smyers. All right. Au revoir, mon ami.